TV Corner.
Hello and welcome to the final edition of the Film Core TV Corner podcast for Lovecraft Country Season 1. I'm Alex in Los Angeles, joined by Armani in New York. Hello, Armani.
Caw. Hey guys, glad to be here for the finale.
Caw indeed. Alright, so yes, we had questions that we might not get answers to, apparently. We thought that we were both pretty confident they would get renewed, and apparently there are talks of it getting renewed for a second season, but it is not confirmed as of this podcasting. So we do not know if there will be a Lovecraft Country Season 2 to answer our questions. We could also just read the book, but no, I'm not going to do that.
I mean, as a sort of like the way it's sort of set up already as like an internal anthology series, I simultaneously feel like maybe we don't need a second season. Like, I know we have unanswered questions that we'll get into, but ultimately, like, do you feel like, what more can they say?
That's true. It's not like stuff was unresolved with, like, the overall story. It would just be, like, the family goes on other adventures, which I'm cool with. Like, it doesn't need to be, like, I'm not a huge serialized TV person anyway, so I'd be cool with more episodic stuff where they just do weird time jumping stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be cool with me. But yeah, in terms of like an overarching narrative for season 2, I don't know. Like, is Christina somehow alive? Does Ruby wake up and wreak her vengeance? Like, I don't know. Who cares? Like, those are like smaller things. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it'd be more cool if we just went to different protagonists, different antagonists, or the same family but different antagonists at least.
I kind of would like if we just got like completely different characters, maybe, like, and we dipped more into like, you know, these sort of like sci-fi, like underserved worlds, you know, but like not necessarily like the same characters, because I feel like everyone's arcs have sort of like been done.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, like American Horror Story style. They just bring back the actors in different roles sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like Journey Smollett can be back as just a different character.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do like quick summaries, because I feel like the big thing is like how are we feeling about the whole show now that we've seen the whole season, where do we go from here, etc., etc. Those are the big questions, but we'll do some quick recaps. So episode 9 is called Rewind 1921. It's the second HBO show to have like an epic Tulsa massacre sort of recap episode, which is cool that they do. So after Dee is attacked by the two ghoulish spirits cast upon her by Captain Lancaster of the corrupt CPD at the end of the previous week's episode, Letty, Tick, and Montrose are sent by the now all-wise Hippolyta to Tulsa on the date of the 1921 massacre to retrieve the long-sought-after Book of Names that Christina also pines for. Eternal time-traveling paradoxes are revealed when we discover that Atticus was always fated to rescue his father, mother, and uncle from encroaching white supremacists during the massacre, and we also discovered that a lot of their family was doomed to die in a fire when Letty goes into their house as it burns to retrieve the Book of Names. We discover also that Letty's invincibility allows her to watch Atticus's family burn alive while she just holds on to the book and waits. So that's pretty dark. But yeah, so that's Rewind 1921 in a nutshell. And then Hippolyta's hair turns blue while she she's casting the spell from afar, and she has to be sort of a physical touch point for them to get back. So she's keeping this portal, conduit, and she's keeping this portal open for them. And it like drains a lot out of her, but it also transforms her hair into like a cool blue. So that's episode 9. Should we talk about episode 9 before moving on to episode 10, or do we do a more cumulative thing?
Yeah. Let's talk about Rewind 1921. I can keep my comments pretty brief. I was not a fan of this episode.
Oh really? Oh, I liked it.
Though I loved that they not loved. I mean, it's like it's hard to say like you love highlighting a massacre and like a horrible time in history.
Right.
I really appreciate that they brought more attention to this. Like, Watchmen also did the same thing with bringing it to the forefront. A lot of people didn't know this massacre even happened in Tulsa in 1921. And essentially, for those who don't know, if you're living under a rock this year, the Tulsa massacre happened essentially with Black Wall Street. And basically, black communities were burned, destroyed, and a lot of black people were murdered. It is so horrible. I appreciate this episode like continues to like be a part of that dialogue, shedding light on it. Simultaneously, like that aside, I was not. This is a problem I have with the show in general. It's just sort of like the writing and the pacing. Is like I feel like a lot of emotional moments because we were constantly doing it from like the POV of like Montrose and Atticus or people who are outside from the situation. You're like taking out of these moments that are supposed to be really emotionally like, you know, devastating. Like for example, seeing like when Montrose was like chastised by his father for like wearing his brother's prom jacket.
Right.
Getting Montrose commenting on it while the action is happening still makes you feel so removed from the action and like from like what should have been like a really close medium shot, maybe with commentary later if they wanted to do that. But because you're watching it from 50 feet away, like really understanding the emotional impact of it is like really lost on you.
I can see that. Yeah. Okay.
Or at least it was lost on me, like totally in those moments.
But what about the moment with the bat where Atticus has to save his dad and mom and uncle, and like the bat's just there because there's rioting and people ringing around bats, and Montrose has told them, oh, I remember some guy saved us in the past, and said, I got you, kid.
The thing about these sort of like time travel paradoxes, there are so many other shows that do it so much better.
That's not untrue. Yeah, and movies.
As a reveal. I mean, just like, it's kind of frustrating because like you see the groundwork that these other shows have laid. Like, for example, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, or like Dark on Netflix masterfully did this. I don't expect this show to necessarily operate at that level because Dark is sort of essentially just, I don't want to say just about time travel, but time travel is a big part of the entire show. So that's something they have to be very cognizant of how that works within the story, versus I feel like the time travel aspect in this show has just been thrown in these last two episodes. If we had sort of like more of these nuggets tied in, like if Montrose had mentioned that like someone with a bat had rescued him in episode 1, and we remembered that callback of like, oh yeah, he said the guy with the bat, and then Atticus realizes that he has the bat. That would have been the emotional payoff that we really needed to connect, like, wow, this is all really meant to work this way, versus like it almost felt like in the writer's room, it's like, we need to have a time travel episode, let's make this happen, despite not really laying any other groundwork for it.
That's true. I mean, at this point, so many episodes are weirdly self-contained, even though it's a serialized show, that like, I don't know, I was okay with it. But I definitely sort of I get that argument for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of set up like to where this season overall like seems to be sort of like an origin episode for each person. And some of them obviously worked better than others.
Yeah. Like I thought the last episode with Diana / D, episode 8 was pretty good. I guess it was also simpler than this one, but I mean I like this one too. I thought it was pretty good because it's just this it's one night. Their objective is to get a book, so like the stakes are high, but they're also streamlined. So, but yeah, it's true that like they try to like have this emotionally resonant moment, but it hasn't been set up in any prior episode. But I was with it. I was okay with it. I didn't love it, but I thought it was pretty well done, which I can't say about the next episode. But yeah.
My biggest takeaway from this episode and like the rest of season 2 has been like sort of like Letty's struggle as a character. I mean, I know that Atticus is like really highlighted as a person like doing like a lot of sacrifices in the show, but I feel like consistently Letty is like sidekicked on these missions and getting like consistently the most difficult parts. Like having to sit into like number one being pregnant, number two like having to sit through an entire house with other people like burning alive, like
Yeah. I guess like she does choose to, like the ancestor of Atticus says stay with me, and so Leia says okay, because she's like a magical ancestor, because like Atticus, his whole family has like a history of magic or whatever, so this is one of his magical ancestors. But still, yeah, I agree. It's weird. She does get the rough end of the deal. But yeah, I don't know. You have the ticking clock element, or so. Actually, not really, because it doesn't. You don't know, like. But basically, so while this is all happening, Hippolyta is back there, and she starts like foaming at the mouth. It's like taking a lot out of her to be this conduit. We did not know this
yeah.
going into it. Like the family didn't know there was some sort of time constraint on like on her like physical and emotional and mental energy to hold this portal for them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like when someone like says like I can't do, you know, whenever it's in any movie, they're like I can't do this anymore. Um, it they usually can. Sorry.
They just gotta go to 110%. You know.
I just mean to yeah, to your point, like there is like not really there's a sort of a time limit of like hurry up, but also like Letty basically just like strolled back.
Yes,
whereas,
while there's like just
people are
stuff
in
coming
full
down.
sprints.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't understand what the urgency is not translating to everyone here.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That was the thing. Like the characters didn't seem to know that there was like I feel like it would have behooved Hippolyta to tell them, hey, you know, I can only do this for so long or whatever. But yeah, we don't know that until she's like, I can't do this much longer. And so you say, oh, okay, well, you know, I guess hurry up. But then Letty doesn't hear her, so I don't know. It was weird.
I actually kind of wish that like Letty had maybe been left in 1921, and like maybe like Tick's son became like George, and like it's all been a circle.
His dad is his son.
Yeah.
Wild.
Like if you're gonna do some time travel stuff, like go all the way.
That'd be cool.
It's too late now, though. It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. Everything worked out. Except, not really, as we'll find out.
Yeah, you want to usher us into the final episode of this season?
Sure. So, episode 10 is called Full Circle. After uncovering the origins of the Book of Names, the family returns to Artem, to the burned down estate of the Sons of Adam, and the goal here is having Atticus stop Christina from casting this immortality spell that she has promised for weeks now in the show, and she needs Atticus to die to complete the spell, but well, we can get into this a bit, but basically, like, she's an antagonist in that she wants Atticus to die, but really it's just because she needs him to die for the spell. She doesn't really care one way or the other. Like, she doesn't have much affinity for Atticus. She has been helping him a lot with stuff prior to this, but he's just like in her way now. He's a nuisance. It's not like she doesn't wish him ill will, like, specifically, which she says a bunch of times, and I believe that she doesn't really care one way or the other. It's more that she needs him for this. Anyway, so Christina has rendered her lover Ruby, who again is Letty's sister, comatose, or maybe dead, after she discovers Ruby attempting to help the family put together a counterspell. And so, in disguise as Ruby, Christina travels with the family to Artem before sabotaging their plan to sabotage her plan, and effectively carrying out her plan, or so we think. And then Atticus's former lover Gia, who has traveled with the family as well, summons her fox tail magic and blocks Christina's spell of immortality. Atticus does die still, but Christina is not immortal. and thus is vulnerable to just straight up throat rip from Dee, who lost her arm, by the way, when the family did wind up saving her after they got the Book of Names in the last episode. But they couldn't save one of her arms, and it's been replaced with a cybernetic arm, thanks to Hippolyta, her mom, and thus she has a robot Terminator arm that she uses to terminate Christina's neck. Then, so Atticus, who knows that a successfully achieved counterspell will necessitate his death, has sort of lied to Montrose, which is pretty clear, like from the jump. Like for no second did I think that he was going to survive, even though he said to Montrose point blank, like, "Oh, there's a chance that I might die, but there's also a chance that I will live. There are many possible sort of outcomes for the counterspell." And then so then we're left with a couple questions, but basically the main crisis, which is the Sons of Adam threatening cousin timeline adventure with Christina, that's been solved by the end of this season. But also Atticus is dead, leaving his impending child with Letty, fatherless. But the rest of the family survives, aside from Christina, his cousin. So that's the end of the season. And again, we don't know if that's the end of the show or just the end of the season. It's an expensive show, but it seems like, at least movie and TV Twitter seems to love it. I don't know what the ratings are like, but it seems to be doing well.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so there was a lot in this episode, and also simultaneously nothing. I'll start with my I guess my like highlights with this is I really like the conversation that Atticus and Gia have, him sort of like being like, yeah, I was really rude to you, apologizing to her, and like also getting that closure in their relationship. And Gia obviously like really comes through the end of this episode. And I really love the scene of them actually all traveling in the car together to Artem, like, and singing that show tune.
That was cute.
Really cute.
It was nice to see Gia's story like tied up, because it felt very abrupt that Atticus and they were just both sort of saying like, "Fuck you, get the fuck out of this house." Yeah. And you're like, "Wait, whoa, come on, calm down, guys." Gia seems okay. Exactly. I mean, yeah, she murdered 99 men, but she had to for the spell or whatever. So.
I was also like, I don't know, and that you totally push back on this. I don't know if I really felt that connected to Atticus anymore. Emotionally, like, I was really unaffected by his death, and I feel like it's because the last few episodes it's been really hard to be on his side, especially when he's been such a dick.
He has kind of been a dick. I like that actor, and I think he had a lot more to work with before with Atticus, but I don't know. I didn't like it felt very I don't know. I was totally expecting it after they introduced that as an idea. I think in episode 8 or episode 7. As soon as they mentioned it, I thought, okay, well, someone big is gonna die. Kind of thought it might be Montrose, but also like Montrose is such a sort of up and down character that it wouldn't be as big a deal. So that's why it sort of seemed like it was gonna be Atticus. So yeah, I don't know. I was expecting it, and then when it happened, yeah, like I don't know. It didn't. Like a lot of the characters change a lot, so it's not like. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like a big loss, really. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, with the overall like character growth in this show, like I feel like it's been like really hard to really emotionally connect with a lot of people. And honestly, like I don't think I really like anyone. Like I think the biggest motivator and like our sympathy towards like all the rest of the characters is just the fact of like, which I don't want to boil this down to like a race issue, but because like of how unfairly they're treated because they are black within this world. I mean, how we all are treated because we're black within this world. That is the main reason why you even sympathize with them. And if you took away the rest of that, like, that context, I don't know how much we'd even care about any of these characters, which I know is a pretty harsh for a show as a criticism, but that's just like how I've been feeling overall as the show has developed.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, The characters are not super distinctive. Um, the main characters, any of them, including Christina, um, even the main like Captain Lancaster is just like such a singular villain. He's not that interesting either. I was
Yeah.
trying to think of like random like side characters that are interesting, but like yeah, I think you have a point. Like
Like even with people like who you feel like maybe you should have like more of a complex sort of like sympathy with, like Christina. Like yeah, she's evil, but like in some ways you should have really like been able to sympathize with the fact that like her being a woman and being like disadvantaged in this country to some extent.
right.
I feel nothing towards any of those struggles.
Yeah, she's
You
so
know?
ambiguous the whole time that you can't get a handle on her, so it's tough to understand if you should or should not care. Or at least that's
Yeah,
how
like
I felt.
even
I
her
don't know.
relationship with Ruby, who I feel like was such an interesting dynamic to be able to explore further, as like the fact of like Ruby's boyfriend is is simultaneously her girlfriend, and it's like a such an interesting sort of like space to have to occupy, and they just still we really don't get any sort of resolution of like how Christina truly feels about Ruby.
Right? Yeah, I
Except was
still
she
don't
truly
know.
just a pawn in this, or did she feel conflicted at all?
I
You
think she
know, in
was
their
just a
relationship.
pawn, but also like didn't seem like she was super necessary for Christina. Like she definitely did need to do that to get to what she wanted.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Ultimately, like she does like use Ruby to like double cross Letty or single cross, double cross. But like in the grand scheme of things, like she really Ruby was such a minor person in this entire thing that like the most Ruby ever did was actually put that rock in Lancaster's desk. Nothing else.
Seriously, yeah.
And she could have been literally any other maid.
Right. Yeah. So it's just like it feels as if maybe okay, well maybe it's just she's sort of an insurance policy for Christina. And Christina's trying to cover her bases and think strategically about every possible way that she could get to Atticus, because she needs Atticus for this immortality spell ultimately, and and she needs the Book of Names, and she wants Atticus to help her get the Book of Names. But so yeah, so I guess that could be it, where it's just she's just trying everything she possibly can. But that's not clear to
Yes.
us really. That's just us. That's just me postulating right now about it. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I agree. That's interesting. I was trying to figure out why I was like struggling to. I guess like my favorite character is probably Uncle George, because he really like he had sort of this.
Got to bow out early.
Yeah, well, because he had this cantankerous personality
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, and like he was like, sort of this creative guy. He loved his family, but then he also, had this sort of complicated romantic history with Atticus's mom, and then he has the green books, and yeah, he just I don't know, he just seemed more interesting, and like he's kind of jovial when he wanted to be, but serious some of the time. Like he just had like much more of a personality, whereas Montrose is always very serious. Atticus is pretty much always very serious. Letty's pretty much always very serious. Like
Yeah, there's really like not much levity like in the entire show anymore at this point.
yeah, so yeah, like losing some of that fun kind of, because like also with Letty, like we don't exactly understand her past. She says that she missed. We find out that why she missed her mom's funeral. It's because she was in jail. Do we know why she was in jail? No, no, we don't.
I guess we assume she was like protesting, but they never really touch on that either.
Don't really touch
I
on
mean,
it. And also,
again,
it seems like this whole season has been like her awakening, right? So I don't know. She maybe was protesting, but also maybe she was just like just getting into trouble, because like she seems like she's been sort of like the rebel of the family a bit, striking out her own and getting just having adventures that we don't know about really.
yeah, definitely. It just like isn't super clear. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's a show like instead of like really just like spending the time to really build these characters was really focused on sort of like the bells and whistles of like the production that we just really are left with sort of like just like this really glittery shell of a show that I feel like we weren't emotionally fully connected to and really piggybacked on like a lot or like we're relied a lot on the heavy lifting to be done by the fact of like bringing up a lot of like struggles within like within the Black community and Black history in this country, which is valid, but like isn't really enough to carry the show based on.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So now the next question. Well, yeah. No, screw it. The next question is, what happens next season? If there is a next season, do we watch next season? Or will we watch next season? We don't even have to necessarily watch it for the podcast. But what it seems like you're leaning against, which we might have discussed before this podcast started recording, and I would. I'm not. See, the thing is, like, I'm not the best audience for this because I'm just not really great with serialized like TV shows at all. Just generally, like, this is something that you were not a fan of, and my current roommate is not a fan of me for being out on serialized shows. But I don't know. Like, I could do it sometimes. Like Breaking Bad, I binged Breaking Bad in a couple of months. And that's like well, I don't know if that's it. That's not it. I've watched serialized shows for a season here and there, but not straight through. Mostly, it's mostly like episodics. Like I could do episodics. I don't know what exactly the issue is for me, but so anyway, so I'm not the best audience for a serialized show like this. But the fact that it's 10 episodes and the fact that each episode is like weirdly self-contained makes it more palatable. Although I mean, I would not be able to watch it out of sequence. I'd have to watch the whole thing straight through because it's ultimately this big developing narrative, and it's already confusing, even though we have seen everything all the way through in the right order. So yeah, I'd be open to it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like I think a big part of that decision would be like, what are they doing next season? Like if they are continuing with the same characters, I'm not interested actually. I just don't feel like they've been developed enough for me to feel like emotionally like I don't feel the stakes, and I really wish that I felt like more tied to them and invested. I would maybe like if they went like more of a American Horror Story anthology route and maybe like completely like maybe recast the cast, but people took on different characters completely maybe. Or if we just completely moved into a new set from here, but I'm worried about like it just going through the same cycle again. If like we're getting these characters that we like don't care about.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I think it'd be fun to have same actors, different characters. Yeah, I'd be open to that. And yeah, it's also I don't know. I think we discussed this before we hit record, but you'd mentioned too that everything's kind of been resolved with the family story. So where would these characters go from here anyway?
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
they could do. We also discussed this. They could do more episodic adventures, which would suit me just fine. But they just hop around, travel through time and space and stuff, episode by episode, and deal with Lovecraftian adventures. That could be something. But yeah, I don't know.
What I would say is like maybe like the actual flaw in this show is that it requires too much of like, in my opinion at least, like knowledge of like Lovecraft animals and like the lore, but we don't have any. Most of us have no context for this. Like we understand like how like like Cthulhu and like these other things have like sort of come through history. We don't truly understand their origins. So there's so much in this show that is like never addressed or answered, like the monsters, for example, like a lot of these things where I feel like we don't fully understand the world building, and I feel like that is something like where maybe they could push that further.
Yeah, that's true. And also, there's so many different Lovecraft stories, and there's so many different creatures and stuff that we didn't see. There's also a lot of mad scientists, and there are 0 mad scientists in this. No, there is a dead mad scientist, I guess. That's right. Okay, never mind. But we don't know him. But he does exist. So yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't know. It's interesting. So I guess yeah. Like, I wonder what the book does differently. I wonder where the book ends things. Also, the books we talked about this before, right? The books in the show, and the author of the book is Letty's kid. Letty and Atticus's kid in the show, which is kind of fun and meta.
But yeah, that's true. But like again, like I don't know. I don't know why. Like I feel like I've not been like as connected with the show. I just don't feel like a lot of things that I feel like we should have been more excited about, or more like that I felt reached sort of a poetic conclusion, just doesn't feel that way. And I do not mean to rag on the show, because there's like so many moments that I truly enjoyed, but there is still something I feel like is ultimately missing.
Yeah, I get that. I It's not the kind of thing like I'm not gonna really revisit it. I don't expect anytime soon. But yeah, it was really well done in terms of the spectacle of it all. Like it was obviously an expensive, well cast, well acted show. But yeah, like there's just the writing's a bit all over the place, and characters are a bit flat, and yeah, it's tough to connect to them because so much of the story is like kind of confusing. And I was telling you too that like I was watching some movies today, and they were all so simple to understand, and I was relieved, because I thought like I was just not getting something when I was watching this show. But like you, I wish that the characters were a bit more engaging for us, and then the story was a bit more streamlined. But yeah, like the core elements are there for it to be something cool, and it has cool moments. So yeah, it was interesting.
I can end it there. It was interesting. And I really liked the GI episode. Like that was like when the show hit its stride and like was really contained and clear, like it went to show like how good it could have been. It was just like it's hard to keep that consistency, I think, especially like cross genre. Like I understand like how tonally it is hard to keep that, you know.
Yeah, for sure. All right, sweet. Well, thanks, Armani, for throwing down on this season of TV Corner. I guess we'll report back with further TV Corner or Film Corner podcast some other point during the pandemic.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Everyone stay safe, wear your mask, and we'll catch you in the next one.
TV Corner.